Today on Locked On Canadiens, it's free agency day. There's no free agents left. They've all signed, but that's okay. The Canadiens have some cap space. They have some roster holes to fill up, and we'll figure out who stays, who goes, and if the Canadiens want to get in on a big free agent.
You are Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into episode 1342 of Locked On Canadiens on this Canada Day. Happy Canada Day, everyone. Thank you for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day, and for subscribing wherever you get your podcast. Doing that supports us here on the show and ensures you do not miss an episode. My name is Ian Boisvert, also known as That Maybe It's Ian. You might have known me from the Build podcast and rabbithabs.com. Yeah, and I'm joined, as I always am, by Laura Saba, also known as the actor Stick. You may have known her from Habs Eyes on the Prize, Hockey Primetime, and the years of doing this show. And Laura and I both, like most of the free agents who were to be free agents on Tuesday, decided to stay home. Laura, how are you doing on this Monday evening?
I'm excited. I'm cautiously excited for free agent quote unquote frenzy. I don't think it's going to be a frenzy. I think the frenzy was today. The reason I'm excited is because I know the Montreal Canadiens are not going to do anything stupid. Not only is this, something that Jeff Gorton came out and said, he said it. He literally said, we are not going to, we don't want to do anything stupid. We're getting close to development camp, right? Like lots of baby Habs to get excited about. But I think the Montreal Canadiens, if they don't do anything this time around, it won't be because of failure. It will be because they have a plan that they want to stick to. And I think that's so important. We're going to talk a little bit later in this episode, who's left. Actually in the segment, we're going to talk about who's left. I just think that this is not the years of disappointment we had where either the Canadiens were overpaying for some, third pairing defenseman or fourth liner, and they weren't standing pat when a lot of free agents were there and you could have made a pitch to them. And I think the Montreal Canadiens are sort of building themselves into a destination without going off the rails.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect way to sum up how the next few days should go for the Canadiens. Now, we say that we are living in very uncertain times in the hockey world right now. Every second that we are doing a show, we are recording something, we are at risk of becoming out of date. If the Canadiens do anything big, you will see us behind these microphones very, very quickly afterwards to break down what happened. So as things are flying, things may be out of date pretty quickly. That's showbiz, baby. Like, that's just what we're going to have to deal with. So look, we'll talk about free agency. I kind of first want to talk about the fact that everyone seemed to just re-sign on Monday. All of them. Like, it just seems like anybody who thought, well, maybe they might get to free agency, they ain't coming. So figure something else out. We'll talk about the Habs cap space with or without Carey Price on long-term injured reserve. And we'll talk about the qualifying offers. And right as we started recording, the Canadiens traded Cayden Primeau. So we will talk about that in the final segment as well. But let's start with the, I guess, around the horn, around the league sort of look at free agency. Just on Monday alone, Aaron Ekblad signed. Brad Marchand has a contract and principally probably will not sign it until Canada Day. Alex Romanoff signed an extension. Ivan Provorov signed an extension. Dante Fabro got an extension. Mitch Marner was traded and signed to an 8-year deal as a sign and trade. And Nick Hague, finally, our long national nightmare is over. Nick Hague has been traded and signed to an extension. We don't need to worry about that anymore. Laura, why do you think this happened? Like, why do you think every free agent decided, nah, screw it, I'll stay home?
I think, you look at who signed and who's signing and staying. They have some good situations. Now, I'm not 100% sold on what the Columbus Blue Jackets are doing because it looked like they were making something and they had an exciting future. And then they started making some regressive moves like that. Ivan Provorov contract is too much. It's simply a lot, right? And then Nashville spending like drunken sailors. That didn't work out for them last time. I don't know if it's going to work out for them this time. But you look at Brad Marchand wanting to stay in Florida. You look at Aaron Ekblad not just wanting to stay in Florida, but Aaron Ekblad, that contract it's long, but it is a steal. It is a steal.
Yeah, it's a great deal.
It's an amazing deal, right? Like, so with Brad Marchand, like that one I think is a little bit ridiculous because he's going to be 43 by the time it's over.
Yeah,
So
he's going to play half of that contract and then Marion Hossa the rest of it.
yeah,
Like we talk, the entire 2013 lockout was essentially built around the fact that people were finding ways to circumvent the salary cap. I can't help but feel that this is that just in a different flavor. And
yeah,
it's entirely legal. Like so were all of the cap circumvention deals. They were entirely legal. They found ways to go around the rules in the cap. That's why it's called cap circumvention. I don't think that will ever go away. I think maybe what they would end up doing is limiting the amount of like injured reserve um, benefit you get out of a player once they're north of 40. I mean, because like taking him to 43 is crazy work. Like that just doesn't. And everyone's like, well, yeah, it's just going to take him to 43. He won't play any of those years. And I'm like, isn't it kind of bad that we're watching a guy sign a contract knowing full well he won't play for half of it?
yeah.
That's not good.
I would love to get like paid. I would love to get paid a full salary for doing half work.
Yeah.
Um, but here's the thing, like with like Florida and Brad Marchand are made for each other, right? Like if there was
Yeah.
one place that was as gross as Boston, but just in a different way, like Florida is it, right? And like looking at what Aaron Ekblad did, looking at what Sam Bennett did the other night, right? Like we didn't talk about that because it was on Friday. That too, like he would have easily, somebody would have paid him way too much on the open market, right? But they
Yeah.
all wanted to stay. So you look at those guys who want to stay. You even look at Mitch Marner, right? Like he's the exact opposite. He wanted out. He really, really wanted out. And so he went to a team which honestly, like, you know, I thought that he would have gotten paid a little bit more. It's an 8 by 12. And it's not too bad for what you're getting for Mitch Marner. I just think it would be really hilarious if they won the cup again. I don't want Vegas to win the cup, right? But it would be really hilarious if they won, like, if during this like 8-year tenure they won like 3 cups,
Yeah, and I'm looking at Vegas now after that signing, after that acquisition. Um, it doesn't look like yeah, Puckpedia has not added the the Marner contract there, but currently they have on here before the trade and the signing, they have a little over $2 million in cap space with Nick Waugh going to Toronto. That's 3 million off, so they'll have about 5 million in cap space, a little over 5. There are rumors that Alex Pietrangelo won't play at all this season, so that's 8.8 in LTIR that they'll be able to use. So that allows them to fit Mitch Marner in there. But I also wonder how comfortable they are with that, and if maybe they look at the rest of their forwards and decide, okay, maybe we have to part with one of these guys. I know they don't want to trade William Karlsson, so they probably won't. But I look at like Thomas Hertl, who they have actually locked up under a pretty reasonable contract now because San Jose is retaining some of it for the rest of time. He's at 6.75. It goes until 2030, but he's at 6.75. So I'm wondering about Vegas there. The other one I wanted to talk about, because it sort of has implications, not implications about the Canadiens, but I think it shows the value Montreal got in their Dobson contract. Evan Bouchard signs a 4-year contract extension worth $10.5 million per year. The Oilers only buy 4 years of Evan Bouchard's services, and it cost them $10.5 million. The Canadiens bought 8 from Noah Dobson, and it cost them $1 million less per season. Man, that's just a masterclass by the Canadiens. And I mean, we know Dobson wanted to take less, but it just seems like we're going to see the value of that contract look even better as all of these other contracts around the league get signed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, that's what this day, I can't even call it free agency. It was all, rights trading and re-signing and stuff like that. I think it just kind of proves that Montreal is not going to go overboard, right? Like and what they're building is going to attract people, so they are going to be able to get people for a little bit cheaper. Now with Evan Bouchard, like, get paid, right? I'm all for it. Get paid. I just think that the Oilers are playing a very risky game with that.
Right. Yeah, and we'll see what happens there. Look, there's already a ton of movement around the league. I have a suspicion that the free agency aspect of free agent day is going to be kind of subdued now because there's really not many guys left. We'll talk about some of the guys that are still sticking around. But I think what we were lacking in free agent moves, we may pick up in trades, because I think teams are going to realize we didn't do any of the stuff we were supposed to this summer. We have to go grab a guy, and we'll see how the Canadiens can play around in that space. All right, we'll step aside. When we come back, we'll take a look at the Canadiens cap situation, try to understand it. Long-term injury reserve in the summer is a complicated concept, so we'll figure that out. And then we'll talk about some of the guys who received qualifying offers, who didn't, and of course, we teased that Cayden Primeau trade, so we will break that down as well. All when we come back on Locked On Canadiens. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game more interesting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburnt at the beach. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether I'm placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet ride into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I'm part of the action. Are you new to FanDuel? New customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. That's right. If you bet just $5, you will get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right. We're back, and it's time to figure out if we understand the salary cap as it is currently constructed. LTIR, long-term injured reserve, the Canadiens have tried to avoid playing in that space as long as Kent Hughes has been around. It's difficult to maneuver when you're under long-term injured reserve over the course of the season. You can't accrue cap space. It makes your situation very difficult. The Canadiens in the past have gone through great lengths to make sure that they can fit everything under the cap. I mean, last year they acquired Patrick Laine and were still able to fit under the cap with Carey Price's contract on regular season IR. Now, though, it's a little more complicated. They can, as of right now, they can still add and fit Carey Price in under that sort of the off-season total, which is, of course, 10% more than the salary cap. You can exceed it. But then when the season starts, they're going to need to have a solution there. I hope someone talks to and asks Kent Hughes about this. He'll probably speak at some point on Canada Day about whether or not the Canadiens will need to go into long-term injured reserve in order to be cap compliant. But I think the Canadiens' plans over the next few days will sort of show us what they're planning on doing. Like if they go out there and they trade for a player, they sign a big player, like I feel like that will tell us more than just sitting here and trying to figure this out. So we'll keep an eye on that. Just playing around on the Puckpedia GM tool. The Canadiens currently are under in projected cap space by about $3.4 million. But if they're able to get Price onto season opening LTIR, they'll have currently about $7 million in cap space. What are you hoping the Canadiens do with that cap? If we're pretending they have that cap space now, time will tell us if that's true or not. What are you hoping the Canadiens are able to do with it this summer, if anything?
Honestly, I think I would stand pat with the absence of a number 2C or a play driving winger, as Jeff Gordon put it, becomes available. I just think there's opportunities for replacement level guys, so you don't need to really spend to that cap unless like there's literally somebody who's worth it. Honestly, I'm rambling a little bit. I'm going around in circles. Partly because I'm just very, very expectant that something is going to drop while we're recording,
For sure.
or even after we're recording. But I'm not a fan of spending all the way to the cap unless you're very close to a Stanley Cup. And I'm really a very strong proponent of managing your cap well, because that's one of the reasons Toronto didn't do well, and that's one of the reasons Vegas is constantly having to break rules, or not break rules, circumvent the rules, is because they don't care about their cap. They just they assume it's going to figure itself out in the future.
Right.
So I want the Canadiens to be a well-planned team that gives themselves leeway, options, contingency.
Yeah. I always think it's funny that the best teams in the league, it just always seems like the cap doesn't really matter to them at all. Like when Tampa was doing Tampa stuff, it was them. Chicago, same way. Florida's definitely in that category now. Although Florida's just done a masterful job managing their salary cap. Like, go look at their Puckpedia page and you'll just get angry because you're like, okay, we have to find a way to steal something from them, right? Unless you want to offer sheet Mackie Samoskevich, they're kind of bulletproof right now. Bill Zito, the fact that he hasn't won the General Manager of the Year award over the last 3 years and it's gone to Jim Nill every time, a team that hasn't made it to a cup final, let alone won one, baffling. I think it was.
Who votes on that?
I have no idea, but I think it was. So I can't remember the person who always says that, but the GM of the Year award is the Stanley Cup.
Yeah,
that's what it is. Like, you built the best team. That you built it. That's your thing. Should the Canadiens decide to spend a little bit of money on the free agent market, there's really 3 players that I'm quote unquote interested in. Nikolai Ehlers, he's a free agent. It looks like he's going to test the market out of Winnipeg. He might end up staying, but he is going to go to the market and see what's available. Mikael Granlund out of Dallas. He would be a perfect second line center for the Canadiens if the price was right. But again, free agencies where you spend a lot of money. He's a mid-30 or an early 30s player. You might have to spend more longer than you would like. And Brock Besser, inexplicably, is going to head to free agency from Vancouver. That's a really, really good hockey player who I just think would thrive in a market that was not a tire fire at all times. If the Canadiens had a spot in their top 6 for one of those guys already, I would be all over them. And maybe you could talk me into, figuring out a way to get them there. But it just seems like in a different timeline, they would be a lot of fun to be Montreal Canadiens. I just don't necessarily see the fit on the 2 wingers. But Granlund, I kind of get that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, like, all of them are intriguing, right? And Montreal still, that second line is Ivan Demidov basically, and then maybe a couple of other guys who already play there, right? But the maybes aren't going to be the ones there when this team is contending.
Yeah, it's true. And we had heard some rumors that the Canadiens were going to be interested, or they're at least going to talk to Patrick Laine about an extension after the draft. It is now after the draft. He can't sign an extension until July 1st anyway, so it's not like we're waiting on something and we were expecting it. I would still be mildly
getting married.
Yeah, that's true. They probably didn't want to bother him with that. Well, Noah Dobson, his wedding was this weekend, or is
Monday.
coming up.
It's today.
Yeah. It's as we're as you're listening to this.
Yeah.
So like that's really funny. That the very, very stressful weekend for him. But yeah, I think the Canadiens, they might want to go after one of these guys, but again, it really depends on how comfortable they are potentially going into long-term injured reserve. They really don't want to do it. You look at teams that have done it in the past, or these teams that are like, I remember like the Kyle Dubas Maple Leafs were always like singular dollars away from the salary cap at all times. And it means like you have to play shorthanded one night. You have to be constantly working off of emergency recalls. The Canadiens were doing that post-trade deadline just because you can sort of game the system by doing that.
But the Leafs literally against the Canadiens, there was one night they couldn't ice a full lineup because of that.
Yeah, it's not a night. I know people just say like, oh, just acquire these guys and go on long-term injury reserve. But yes, we see that playoff in the playoffs, right? Where and that's going to go away, by the way. They're going to add a salary cap to the playoffs essentially. But you don't watch them in the regular season. You're not watching the nights where they're playing shorthanded or they're playing, with a guy on defense they don't want to. They're playing with a forward playing on D, or the opposite, a defenseman playing forward. Like, you're not seeing those moments. So there are legitimate reasons to avoid going into LTIR. Yes, there's obviously like big benefits from it if you're positioned correctly. I don't necessarily know that the Canadiens at this point in their build are positioned correctly to take advantage of that.
I just want to put this out there. A 2 Xhekaj fourth line.
Yeah. That would I had somebody, I think maybe it was somebody in our comments who was talking about how they should make Xhekaj into a winger. And I don't hate it. I kind of love it.
I know, but there's already one there.
Yeah, but you just have the Bash brothers on one line. Just throw them out there. Put the smallest center you can find in between of them as bait. To be like, if you guys are going to try to mess with him and you don't want to do that. Yeah. I think that would be really funny.
I honestly want to see it one day. Marty, please do this one day.
Yeah,
a 2 Xhekaj fourth line.
Yeah, we know they listed, especially the offseason when I got on and I was like, go get Patrick Laine. And they're like, bet, we're on it. And they went and got him. So we'll see a two-jack guy. We need to at least see it in the preseason. It was supposed to happen last preseason. Do you remember that? Where like they had like scheduled it to happen. I think it was in a game against the Senators, and then they pulled one of them out of the lineup, probably for the best. But we live in a post-control society. We need to have both of them in the lineup at all times.
Yes.
All right, we'll leave that there. When we come back, we're talking about who stays on the Montreal Canadiens post free agency day, who goes, and one that we already know is going in Cayden Primeau. And we'll get into all that in just a moment on Locked On Canadiens. All right, Laura, so far so good. No news is broken while we are doing this, so we're just kind of head down sprinting through this to try to make sure that we're gonna stop recording and they're gonna trade for Sidney Crosby, and we're just gonna have to all deal with that. Let's talk about the qualifying offers. 5 Canadians received qualifying offers before the 5 p.m. deadline on Monday. Cayden Primeau, who is now gone, Jakub Dobeš, Trudeau, Struble, and Farrell all received their qualifying offers. Anyone there surprise you? I think there's one on that list that truly surprises me.
Trudeau
is kind of surprising. For me, it's Farrell. And I mean, maybe it shouldn't be because he came on towards the end of the season, but I just don't know I don't think that there's room for a guy like that in their lineup. I mean, there's no room for Primeau, and they traded him. So I guess maybe that's part of the reason you're just keeping his rights.
Yeah, because Sean Farrell is talented. Like maybe there's no room for him here in Montreal, but what he was able to do in Laval is really promising. Other teams will need that. He has skill. It's not like he's unskilled. It's just that the Montreal Canadiens right now have a plan, and that plan does not include him. So I was not surprised at all. I was a bit surprised with Trudeau, to be honest.
Yeah. And, Struble, Dobeš, those two were pretty much tapping. Same with Primeau, even though it kind of we kind of all anticipated a trade happening. It made sense to qualify him because they got a 7th round pick. They got a 2026 7th round pick out of him. If they just let him walk to free agency, they get nothing. So this was a good move by Montreal, as limited as the return was. It was good to get something rather than nothing. Should we talk about Cayden Primeau really quick? Well, let's do the players who could have received qualifying offers but didn't. Raphael Harvey-Pinard, Noah Hoffenmeyer, and Xavier Simoneau, as well as Gustav Lindstrom, but he already signed overseas, so we knew that wasn't happening. I think of those, obviously, Raphael Harvey-Pinard's kind of the big one to not receive a qualifying offer. It kind of makes sense. It's a crowded pool in the Canadiens, and he kind of is a duplicative player. It still kind of stinks to see it happen, though, right? Like, we were all really rooting for this guy in Montreal.
Yeah.
It's a little upsetting it ended this way.
A little bit, but it kind of also shows it's kind of the end of an era, right? Like all of these players that are no longer part of the plan or no longer part of this regime are gone. Like obviously you're not getting rid of a Nick Suzuki. You're not getting rid of a Cole Caulfield. Like there's still a bunch of guys that the previous front office drafted that you're keeping or traded for that you're keeping. I just think that this is kind of this is a new Montreal Canadiens. We don't do that anymore. So thank you so much. Bye.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a shame, but that's just the way that kind of goes. Cayden Primeau, his time in Montreal is over.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm glad he played himself into a new role. It was really, I think Cayden Primeau, the AHL goaltender, is one of the most electric goalies you'll see. And then he just could not make it work in the National Hockey League. I'm pretty sure the Carolina Hurricanes already have 2 goaltenders signed. I think it's Pyotr Kochetkov and Freddie Anderson, who's somehow still playing in the National Hockey League after 1,000 years. Is there a chance he steals a job there? Like, do you think that's something he can do?
Maybe the AHL, but no, I don't think in the NHL. Although Carolina hasn't really shown themselves to be overly into good goalies, right? Like the guy they trade away is the one that's better. Like, I don't know that goaltending has ever been one of their in recent years. I don't know that goaltending has been something that they rely on. So that makes it possible that Cayden Primeau will find a spot there. But I don't think he's really, I think he's just a depth goalie.
Yeah, I think it would be funny if Montreal doesn't find another veteran goaltender for the AHL, and during training camp, the Hurricanes waive him to send Primeau down to their AHL affiliate, and then oops, sorry, Montreal claims him. So I think that would also be very funny. The likelihood of that happening is rather low. A couple more guys who might be leaving, might be staying. One of them is already rumored to be leaving. Michael Pezzetta.
Yeah.
Pierre LeBrun reported that he wouldn't be surprised to hear that Toronto would be interested once the free agent market opened up. This sounds, and forgive me for saying this, Laura, a bit like tampering. The same kind of tampering that the Toronto Maple Leafs have accused Mitch Marner of. Obviously, the terms of which are vastly different between a player receiving a max contract for $12 million a year and Michael Pezzetta, who will, his number will start with a 9, but it'll come before the decimal in millions. I think it's rather funny that the Leafs were able to get like very upset and essentially extort Nick Waugh out of Vegas, and yet here they are essentially doing the same thing with Michael Pezzetta of all people. Like, you can wait for Michael Pezzetta to get to free agency without talking to him. It's okay.
Yes, it's totally fine. Absolutely. One of my Leafs fans friends was like, "Tell me about Michael Pezzetta," and I was like, "He cracked the lineup maybe 15 to 20 times out of 82." So I don't even remember how many games he played. I remember he did not play most of the games.
No, and he's just a lunatic. I think people in locker rooms love him. He's that kind
Yeah,
of
fans
guy.
love him.
Yeah, I just don't know what the Leafs are doing. If he couldn't crack the Canadiens lineup, I don't know how he's going to be able to crack the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, that doesn't compute to me at all.
Maybe they just think they know better, right?
Yeah, for sure. They're smarter than all of us. Go off, Brad. Two more UFAs that are leaving. Yoel Armia and Christian Dvorak. It's been very quiet on those two players. I know Dvorak's probably gone because the center pool is limited and it will be difficult for them to they probably won't put up an offer that would match what he would get on the free agent market. Yoel Armia, I'm slightly more hopeful about him staying. I think it's still like a 40% chance that he stays. But am I right? Is that justified in thinking that like Yoel Armia might come back? It's the complete silence on this has been very odd.
I think it depends on the offers. Like, I think it's fair for both of them to test the market. I think that Christian Dvorak will find more than outside of Montreal. I also think with Yoel Armia, it really depends on what he wants, right? Like, if he wants to cash in, then he's going to have to wait for another team. But if he's happy being part of this group, which there's no indication that he isn't, I see a team like Dallas, we talked about it before as well, like when it was a trade deadline. I see a team like Dallas liking him. I see a team like Nashville liking him. For whatever reason, I think like a team like LA would also like him. I just don't know if there's room for him in LA.
Yeah.
But he seems like that kind of player. Also, like, I feel like Utah, maybe.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any of those teams trying to make that jump can plug a guy like that into their bottom six and just keep their younger players out of like penalty killing situations and put them on the ice late in the game to seal wins. Like that, you can lean on a Yoel Armia to do. Couple more guys I want to talk about here. Joe Veleno was bought out by the Seattle Kraken. And then on Monday, he appeared in Montreal, where he's from. He's from the area, so it's not super odd that he's there. But he skated with some of the Canadians, Nick Suzuki, Ivan Demidov, to name a couple of them. He was recently just bought out by Seattle, so he is a free agent. I don't know much about this player, but looking at the numbers, looking at the stats, I don't know that there's really much of a fit. He's not really a great center. He doesn't win a ton of faceoffs. It doesn't seem like something the Canadians should be interested in, other than to just get another quote unquote veteran forward for the bottom six. And hey, he's from here. That's pretty cool. Like that would really be the only like pros to sign this player for me.
Yeah, but like there's a better bottom six player in Yoel Armia to sign. So
Yeah, the price is what's going to matter, right? Like if Yoel
yeah,
Armia prices himself out of this market,
yeah.
that's what's going to happen.
I just think he's in Montreal. Like that's one of the things that a lot of these players do is that they skate with each other. And it's one of the reasons the Montreal Canadiens love that Nick Suzuki sticks around is because they can lure other people to come here and like skate with him over the summer, right?
Yeah.
And by that I mean free agents and prospects and things like that. So it's just I think it's a thing. David
Yeah.
Perron used to skate here. I don't
True.
necessarily think anything is coming of it.
Got it.
He's just staying in shape.
Yeah, for sure. Rapid fire here. are
Yeah.
all of the players who are going to be eligible for the Canadiens to sign to an extension. Are they going to sign an extension tomorrow? I just want a
Okay.
yes or no from you, Laura. Okay.
Tomorrow? Yeah. Okay.
Tomorrow, well, today, as folks are listening to this, but on
Yes.
Canada Day, are they going
Yes.
to sign an extension? Kirby Dach.
No.
I'm also a no on Kirby Dach. Joshua Waugh.
No.
No, I'm also a no on Joshua Waugh. Arbor Xhekaj.
Yes.
I also think yes for Arbor Xhekaj. I don't know why, but I feel like the Canadiens try to get that one done pretty quietly under the buzzer. I don't know why. I'm glad we're on the same wavelength here because I was like, why do I feel like that's going to happen? I have no reason to believe that, but
It's just
that's
a
what I
thing.
feel. Let's save the big one for last. So Patrick Laine, does he sign an extension on July 1st?
No.
I don't think so either. I think they wait and see how everything shakes out.
Yeah,
Mike
I think
Matheson.
some point next season. Mike
Yeah.
Matheson, no.
All right. Same on that one. I just don't know if there's any room. And the big one, Lane Hutson. Does he sign an extension on July 1st?
Yes.
You say yes.
Yeah.
My
I think
heart
they
says
haven't.
yes.
I think that the Noah Dobson thing happening, like that's why I said no on Mike Matheson. I think now that they know like part of their top defense, like their top Ds, like the other part is Lane Hutson. I think yes. I think now they know how much they want to give him, or they've always known how much they want to give him. Now they have a vision that they can sell him. This kid just wants to play hockey. He wants to be really good. I feel like they come together tomorrow.
Yeah, the Dobson signing. It's funny that adding $9.5 million to your cap does make it feel like you're more solidified, right? Like it makes you feel like, yes, you have less cap space, but you have more certainty now. You know exactly how much you're committed to that player for. So that makes a lot of sense to me as well. All right, we'll see how it shakes out. We'll be back here on Tuesday night, but that'll launch on Wednesday morning for you guys to let you know what we thought of free agency. Let's do our trivia from yesterday and then call it an episode. Alexander Zharovsky, I almost keep calling him Zharkov. I don't know why. Zharovsky, Montreal's first pick in the 2025 NHL draft, was taken with the 34th pick. Who was the last player Montreal took 34th overall? Do you ever remember this one, Laura?
Yeah, it was Jacob Delarose.
Correct.
And I want to say it was 2014?
2013. Very close. Yeah. Jakob Delarose, 2013. Ennerher and John Kondrak got that one right for us. Today's question is offer sheet related. We didn't talk about offer sheets a lot. Sure, someone will sign one on Tuesday, but we'll have to see how that plays out. The Montreal Canadiens have seen one of their players offer sheeted at least twice in their history. The last one was obviously Jesperi Kotkaniemi, but who was the first? They didn't match this player either. So who was the first player in Montreal Canadiens history that received an offer sheet? If you have the answer, put it in the comments down below. Send it to us any way you know how, and we'll give you a shout out on the next episode of the show. That's going to do it for us today on this episode of Locked On Canadiens. Thanks so much for tuning in, for making us your first listen of the day. Every day, we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast. There is no offseason, bringing you the daily league-wide stories that matter most. With the local coverage you love from Locked On, find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We are Locked On Canadiens everywhere we're posting things. Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky. Come follow us on all those platforms. Before we go, I hope you are all enjoying a very happy and safe Canada Day. Remember, do not drink and drive. Be careful around fireworks. I want to see everybody back here on Wednesday. You can find me at Maybe It's Ian. You can find Laura at The Active Stick. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.